Hello and welcome to the Moat, where we talk about real businesses, real numbers, and real stakes, and help you build a business that is harder to copy, take, or kill. I'm your host, Kyle Harbaugh,
I'm Parker Wilson.
and let's build the moat.
Let's do it.
So
Let's build it.
let's, Parker. Every week we find business stories, and we decode them, we break them down, and really each business story that it raises a question. What does this mean for my business? And so we're not here to just report on the news. We're here to help you make better business decisions. We help you find the leadership principles behind these different stories, and so that you can take these actionable insights and make your business harder to copy, take, or kill. So let's build another layer of that moat.
For sure. Let's do it.
All right. So I'd love to hear from everybody in the audience. This is a live show, so if you have a question, feel free to leave us a comment. If you're watching this after hours, leave us a comment that we can answer later on air. But if you have something live right now, drop it in the chat. Let us know. I'm going to leave our contact information in the chat as well, so that if anybody has any kind of questions, but they might want to explore what's possible, separately, we can have a private conversation and explore what your issue might be, what your question might be. So I just shared that in the chat. You can book a time with us. So let's get into our first question. I'd love to hear from the audience. What do you think your business? Do you think your business could successfully run for 6 months if you were to disappear? I would say, personally, we're not there yet. Some people I know that they're like, oh yeah, no problem, no
Right.
problem. So is it a yes? Is it a no? Is it a I'm not sure? Maybe.
Right.
But love to hear from the audience. All right. Well, Parker, I want to get into our first story. I wanted to talk about this interesting news. So if for those that don't know me, I'm the president and founder of Chief Go Officers. But before this company, I worked in legal for a long time. I worked with law firms, all sorts of sizes, from really itty bitty law firms all the way to hundreds of people, and I've worked with a lot of different attorneys. And so this is an interesting story. Private equity is coming for law firms.
Hmm.
The rules aren't even really established yet. Louisiana personal injury firm Dudley DeBoiser announced a partnership with a private equity firm to create a MSO, a managed service organization, a split entity around where attorneys keep the law firm. In most states, only attorneys can own law firms, but all the other assets, all the other business functions are owned by another entity that is not attorney owned. So it's a platform. They created this platform called Orion Legal, and what it is, it's allows them to take all the back office functions, all the accounting, technology, different operations aspects that are not legal, and roll those into a unified system, so that not only can they acquire other firms, but they can all run on the same platform. So this is really interesting because, uh, to my knowledge, no state bar has really any kind of standards for MSOs. No
Hmm.
court has adjudicated, um, where management starts and ends, and where
Right.
control starts and ends.
Right.
So it's very interesting. Who knows when we get clarity around just how the rules are supposed to work.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. That's an interesting point, especially around the fact that there's no governance around that aspect now of, hey, we can just pretty much buy up and roll up all these firms and pretty much split. and we're technically following the law, right?
Right.
We're being legal by allowing the legal experts, right? Play on words here, to take care of the legal side of the business, and we're not even touching that, and we're just touching the growth aspect because the thing about it is, we look at law firms and attorneys as they just handle law, but they're businesses as well. They need to grow as well, right?
Yep.
They need to,
They're absolutely a business, and a lot of
yeah,
them, they don't operate as a business.
I'm
I ex-
sure. Yeah, I'm sure because you're so. I mean, you're one of your primary revenue sources are through. I'm not a legal expert, but just through acquiring people who need the services. So it's you don't have to do all of the sexy marketing, or if someone has a problem and need that case solved, right? They're coming to you, but you got to stand out because there's a lot of law firms. So there is
Absolutely.
a business development side of things that needs to be attended to just as much as a construction company, for example.
Yep.
And maybe a lot of these firms, it could maybe be a win-win. Like private equity sees an opportunity, and the law firms maybe don't know how to scale, or it could be a recipe for disaster. Because private equity is coming for everything. So we'll see which direction it goes in.
Yeah, I think there, you know, this is very, very early, and there's some other
Sure.
MSOs that I'm aware of, but this is pretty big news. This is a fairly large law firm. They have about
Right.
200 employees. They have around 50 attorneys. They do
Mhm.
personal injury, so they're pretty well known in Louisiana, but they're not a multi-state organization, say like a Morgan and Morgan, which is
Mhm.
the largest personal injury firm in the U.S. Um, the interesting thing here is now they have the platform to run on, and they can acquire other businesses. And I we'll see how well they execute this, but I believe that because they have the leadership partnership bench of this private equity firm, they have significant resources, and they can really solve a lot of problems and expand.
Yeah.
The the interesting thing that I see here is I talk about how you're letting life happen to you, or you can happen to life. And I
Hmm.
see this as them being proactive and happening,
Yeah.
rather than sitting on the sideline, seeing how this shakes out, waiting for a court or a bar to make the rules. They're like, well, we're just if nobody's going to speak to this, we're going to just go out and do it,
Yeah.
and we can figure it out as we go.
Right.
And I love that. I applaud all of the attorneys. I don't know anybody at Dudley DeBoiser, which is interesting because I was in the personal injury space for 6 years, and so
Yeah.
I worked with firms across the nation, and so I know a lot of different personal injury firms, but this one I was not familiar with, so it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
One thing I want to say now though is, and I've been saying this, I wrote several articles about this. You can go read them on my newsletter on LinkedIn. This private equity money is going to bring a lot of improvements to the law. There's going to be a lot of efficiency. There's going to be a lot more leadership
Hmm.
and um, economies of scale,
Yeah.
better technology. Like,
Sure.
I think there's going to be a lot of potential for good. I also see the potential for um, decisions to be made that are good for the profit, for the bottom line, maybe not so great for the consumer that needs legal services. And that this has always been the argument of why um, lawyers have to have control and own law firms. Is well, they have ethical duties, they have ethical obligations that require them to act a certain way and you know take care of the client.
Yeah.
And I hear that at the same time, I see a lot of inefficiencies in law firms that that people are just they're not taking they're not moving fast enough to really take advantage of, say, new technology or better processes,
Yeah.
or leadership development, or other infrastructure that is needed to really grow and make a business do bigger and better things. And so,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think with that, like if so bottom line, right? Um, if you have the relationship between a private equity company and a law firm, if the law firm is maybe unethically taking care of their clients or they're not doing the right thing, which usually they're not, right? They are taking care of their clients and doing the right thing and doing right by them. At
mhm,
baseline, we should make sure that happens, right? Or else we're not going to be a good law firm. Now, I think the question becomes is like you mentioned, the systems and processes and people, if they are unable to do that because they're so focused on cases and less business building, then that is where a good relationship could happen with a private equity company and a law firm, and not maybe one of those cases where we're just the company comes in and says we're just taking over. And I think one of the most important things that I've seen is how you structure your ownership of your company, how you structure your equity, within your company, right? What is an amount of money you're willing to take on? What are the terms you're willing to negotiate?
yep,
And what are you just not giving up regardless to say, hey, this is off limits. You cannot touch this at any point in time. Like, I think that the beautiful thing about it is this relationship with ownership and in money, right? If it can be a good relationship, then you all can negotiate the terms.
right,
Yes, they'll have to be compromised. And at the end of the day, if that company and private equity firm is not for you, then you don't go with them, right? But the
yeah,
problem we're seeing, not just with law firms, but across the board, is companies, we're screaming, oh, they duped me, they did me wrong. But you saw your eyes lit up when you saw that check and you took
yeah,
the money and you didn't see, oh well, we can take 35%, once we hit this revenue target by doing this, and you never got the right lawyer, no pun intended,
yeah,
to maybe look over your company. But if you do it the right way and you structure it beforehand, you say, okay, hey, you cannot touch this aspect of our business. This is what our vision is. This is what is going to happen.
right,
And you maybe come up with the scenarios of, okay, if we got money, what could they try to change? And it's all about preparation, right? So if you can
yes,
prepare for a conversation like that, now you're going into it a little bit more on offense to say, okay,
yeah,
we're ready to talk, but these are the terms. Of course, you're going to have to negotiate and compromise, but you maybe have done the homework, you've done the research, you may have talked to, people have worked in private equity that no longer do. They can give you the game and tell
right,
you, okay, if they give you $50 million, they may try to finagle, not finagle, I don't speak negative. They may try to shift some things in this area. Are
right,
you willing for that to be shifted, or does that affect your moat? Right? Does
right,
that affect your thing that's close to your heart as an owner and based on what you need to do? And if it doesn't, then of course take the money. Of
right.
course. If it does, you got to make that tough choice. You have to.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And one thing that I see that's very common with lawyers, with law firm owners, is some are very entrepreneurial, but many are not.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
get it. Like, I mean, I've worked with a lot of different lawyers, and they tell me things like, well, I went to law school because then I knew I wouldn't have to do math.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, lawyers are very smart.
Yeah. Of
Lawyers are very, very capable people.
course.
The issue is maybe numbers weren't your strong suit. Okay, so you got to bring somebody in who likes numbers, who when they see numbers, their eyes don't glaze over, but they actually light up. And
Yeah.
so you got to it getting ready for a sale of your business, whether it's a complete sale or a partial sale. It's a team sport, and you need good, trusted advisors to help you see all the different aspects of the deal.
Yeah.
And you got to think about, like, law firms, private equity is coming into your space,
Hmm.
and they're going to change how things run, and there's going to be market pressures, and you need to think about it and prepare for it. And even if you don't want to sell, you need to you need to understand what pressures are coming and how to position yourself well.
Yeah.
Or, like Parker, like you were saying, think about, well, if I were to sell, what would be a deal I'd pass up and what would be a deal that I couldn't pass up?
Right.
And what would need to be the terms where I would feel comfortable selling? And
Yeah.
having that proactive approach on the front end is such a better place than some private equity firm calls you tomorrow and you haven't done any homework, you haven't had any real thought, and maybe you have partners and they have different ideas. You guys have never talked about it,
Bingo.
and you're all just experiencing it on the fly.
Right.
That's not a good place, and I know there's certain private equity firms that will take advantage of that type of situation.
Of course. Of
So,
course. They have, I think what a lot of operators and owners and need to realize, even if if they want to become an operator or owner, is you have to, and this is not saying you need to go get an MBA, right? Like we have so much access to information now. Um, you have to understand the game, right? That's being
mhm,
played. And I don't mean that in a way of, I just mean that in truth. You know, you have to understand just what's out there. And for anybody, whether you're wanting to take on, whether you're wanting that company to buy your company or you're wanting to take on outside capital, to help you streamline operations, you have to understand what a trade-off is, what they're offering, and know it now, even if you're not even expecting it, because you never know. You could be talking about your business, someone could say, "Oh my gosh, that sounds great." Well, here's a $15 million check, and your eyes are just, "Oh my gosh!" And now that takes over the knowledge, and a lot of times. One of the things I personally believe in is if we're making a rash decision very urgently, it never ends well, right?
yeah,
Whatever you
yeah,
do, just pause, take a second, right? Review the terms, review the agreement, right? As you mentioned, the vultures that are out there, they'll want you to sign immediately,
hmm,
right? And people, it happens all the time. They just, oh my gosh, what happened? And they can just say, well, you signed the contract. So this
yeah.
is what was in the
That's
agreement. And you did sign it. And now you're like, you don't want that painful 15, $20 million mistake hanging over your head for the next 12 years of what you could have did better. It's
yeah,
all a lesson, right? We all learn to get better. But if you could just take some time to be proactive, that is what I would stress here is
hmm,
if you're listening out there, don't think that you'll never be in this position one day. Oh, I'll never do it. I'll never sell or I'll never take on outside money. Be proactive. Just study up on some information. Ask the questions. Go to AI. Ask the questions because you need to learn how this works, right? What would happen? How would you go about it? Who are the partners in your business that you need to
right,
have this conversation with? What is the come to Jesus moment? What is the meeting you need to say? Private equity outside capital meeting that we need to talk about for the next 2 hours to say, hypothetically, if this were to happen, what are everyone's thoughts? So you're always on the same page.
yeah,
Because I think we see with no communication, with when that comes, you
yeah.
scramble, and we run into mistakes that we are obviously trying to help people avoid.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I think that's really well said, Parker, and that dovetails perfectly in with the moat lesson that wanted to make here is, there's a huge market. The law firm space, the law firm industry is it's wide open. It's the Wild West. There are no regulations.
Yeah,
Um,
no
no,
regulation.
nobody has ever done this before,
Yeah,
um, and the owners who understand the structures and the terms of a deal can negotiate from a position of strength,
for
not
sure.
from surprise. If you do
Yeah,
it from surprise, I almost can guarantee that things are not going to be ideal. They're not going to be optimal, and so you want to really do your homework and understand what creates enterprise value so that maybe you are more valuable so that you could get a higher multiple when if somebody were to offer to buy your business or buy a part of your business.
yeah.
So those are the things I want to leave you with. For our audience, what do you think is going to be disrupted next by private equity? Do you think could it be expert witnesses? Could it
Mm.
be engineering, marketing firms, something else? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. This is a live show. We come on here at the lunch hour, um, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we'd love to hear from you. If you haven't hit subscribe, go ahead and hit subscribe, like, share. If you know a business owner that needs to hear this, we'd love to have them come into our fold as well. So uh,
Where
Parker,
do you think we're going next? I have some thoughts, but I wanted to hear what your thoughts are.
well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
This whole episode is about private equity, so I think we're
Right.
gonna tease that out a little bit. I have some ideas, but I wanna break down and give people a bit more information so that they could maybe make a better, more informed decision. So, wanted to talk to you now, Parker, about a space where private equity has been pretty active, which is accounting
Okay.
firms. Another
Okay.
professional service,
Yeah.
another service that we help with a lot, accounting firms. So each private equity investment triggers 7.6 more deals. That's coming from the International Federation of Accountants. That's what they have counted. So fewer than 200 private equity investments in accounting firms um, happened in 2021. So not that many happened, and then out of that, in 2025, 900 transactions happened in 2025. So we go from not that many deals to lots of deals real
Yeah.
real soon, and the their consolidation index. So it increased fourfold from 2021, and the interesting thing is more deals happened in. I want to make sure I get this right in the month of January 2026 than every month of 2025.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's we see this huge ramp up of platforms acquiring more and more accounting firms. And so one acquisition isn't just one acquisition. It's a snowball that builds and grows, and it's really eight more deals. You just don't see it right away. It takes years to compound.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Definitely playing the long game.
Yeah.
When it comes to those firms, for sure.
Yeah, but it's a compounding platform, and so that's what platforms do is they allow you to get more leverage. They allow you to create bigger impact, bigger results, and so I think this is really interesting that while it seems like, oh, some businesses are being bought here and there, the people buying those businesses are being very intentional, and they have a big vision in mind to do
Yeah.
big things, and it's a very different mindset than just have this business, buy it, have it run, do
Yeah.
about the same, incremental gains. No, it's they're scaling.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point because one of the thoughts that came to mind is um part and correct, I'm not a full accounting expert, but I understand some of the work that they do. So uh when thinking of private equity, when thinking of them acquiring seven or five, three, four, five, six, seven, eight firms, one, they can go after bigger projects,
Yes.
right? So now this firm can be a kind of a consulting company, and a company like, let's say, PayPal can hire this firm. Let's say it's 123 accounting, right? And we have about nine firms in our toolbox across 12 states, and Since you mentioned having a big vision, we have about nine companies across 12 states, and now we have the work power to go and work on these engagements
Right.
where PayPal might have a few offices in, let's say, New York, DC, Atlanta, Miami. I just named all the major cities, Charlotte, and they can now deploy their employees to these offices to go get some consultative accounting advisory work done, and not just have to be around during tax season, right? They don't just have to
Right.
do, park his taxes here, but they can go and do, they can take on engagements at these companies that are going to pay large amounts of money. So
Correct.
maybe that could possibly be an angle because once again, you're getting larger checks, larger valuation towards your company because of the type of work you're doing, and then you get
Right.
more visibility as this said company. So I think it goes more into you. We're not just doing taxes because if you're a tax expert, now you can consult on this aspect. You can have some folks do the actual tax work, but now you can advise
Right.
how this company should structure, and then you can also hire on other legs as well
Right.
related to that accounting work
Yes.
and become that firm, that could now advise, and now you can gain other angles of revenue as well,
Right.
just from the aspect of acquiring, the really you're acquiring the bandwidth, quite
Right.
honestly. You're
Yep.
you're
Yep.
acquiring the bandwidth. The bandwidth is now coming with revenue from their clients, and really I believe you're just positioning yourself for much larger engagements with companies that will need the work and to possibly expand into relatable areas of work,
Right.
so you can become a consulting accounting company on steroids basically.
Right. No, yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, I think there's a few different advantages. One, not everybody runs on their own tech stack. They
Right.
have a unified tech stack. There's
Bingo.
economies of scale there. There's bargaining power there. There's it's like we figured out what works, and now we just roll it out to all of our companies, and we have the same standard operating procedures
Right.
for each of our offices in
Yeah.
all these different states or what have. So there's a lot to be said about the roll up, and
Yeah.
so I think that's a really interesting idea. Um, here's the moat lesson I want to leave everybody with. Your competitors are being bought out and bolted on to shared technology, national reach, deep capital.
Yeah.
Standing still is no longer a viable option, or it has serious consequences if you do stand still, if you don't participate. So you either have to build a moat so specific that it can't be touched, or you might need to be ready to participate in consolidation, but do it on your terms.
Yeah. Definitely. And what implementation could that moat look like for your business? Maybe you can say, okay, because here's the thing, there's always going to be larger entities and smaller entities, like that battle between larger entities aren't able to touch areas that smaller companies can. For example, even in the, and I know this will segue into one of our next topics, but um, private equity firms may not touch businesses doing $5 million a year because it doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
Because of the capital that they have, that doesn't make sense for someone, like myself. Let's say I wanted to buy a business doing $5 million a year. Well, I'm not in competition with the private equity company because they're not
Right.
after that.
Right.
So how can we take that same concept into those smaller companies so they're not afraid, but they're saying, okay, well, here's an area they're not going to be able to touch, not because they don't want to, not because they can't, but it just does not work with their business model. They can only touch these larger areas. So then how can I affect and have a moat in this area? How can I have dominion in this area? How can I have influence in this area to dominate in?
Right.
And I think that's the question to ask and to understand and to maybe research. And then you may have to, ask yourself some tough questions and shift a little bit, right? Like maybe, for example, maybe one of the areas is, okay, we're not doing as much tax work, but we're going to do consultative work for companies doing $5 million a year, right? Because
Right.
we know they're not going to touch those companies. Well, now I can roll up every single business, um, not the PE roll up, but I can now go to every single business doing that, and I could say, hey, listen, this company here that's really big, they're not going to be able to help you. I can have a personal one-on-one with you. You might get a rep there, right?
Yeah.
I will know
Yeah.
your business inside and out, and we can lock in on that. So that could possibly be how smaller companies, whether they choose to participate or not, whether they choose to participate, great. If they don't, you might need to narrow down into
Yeah.
that area or double down on what you do well or reevaluate what you do so you can just you can find market share in that. And the thing is, everyone's not going to do that. So you don't have to worry about 17 other companies doing the same thing you're doing. No, some of them are going to fizzle out. Some of them are going to get bought up, or some of them are going to stay stubborn and stay, oh, we're just going to stay with what we're doing and not do that. So if
Yeah.
you take that
Yeah.
on, I think you'll have success.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And standing still, while some people might feel comfortable with that decision, you got to realize it comes with consequences.
Definitely.
So let's get into our third story, our third topic. You might have just heard the first two and go like, okay, so why are private equity firms so interested in service-based businesses? Well, first off, service-based businesses make the majority of businesses in the U.S. I think it's like
Yeah.
78%
Oh
of
yeah.
businesses are service-based in the U.S. So it's one, there's a lot of
Hmm.
service-based businesses. But two, this is their playbook. This is how they work. So they buy a company for about a 4 to 6x EBITDA. What
Right.
is EBITDA? For those who don't know, that's an acronym. It stands for earnings before interest,
Hmm.
taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Okay, so but if you want to just think about it as profit, they'll pay you, 4 to 6 times your profit, generally speaking, and then they'll hold it for a period of time, and then they'll make some improvements, and those improvements will be value enhancing, and those value enhancing improvements will allow them to sell your business for 8 to 12 times. So they'll be
Yeah.
able to make a lot more money with your business. So those different improvements? Let's talk about them.
Yeah.
The best targets to share traits that they're looking for is they're looking for fragmented ownership. So no player is above 5% in market share.
Mm.
So lots of little firms like law firms. I think
Hmm.
75% of law firms are 6 attorneys or less. So small firms, lots of these small firms. Recurring revenue, professional management upside. What is that? We'll get into this more, but basically think about it like the business could run a lot better if they were intentional. But a lot of
Hmm.
times these businesses, the business owner is the bottleneck. It's limited by their skills. It's limited by their ability to focus, and maybe they're really good at marketing, but they're maybe not so great at hiring.
Yeah.
They may be great at the thing they do, like practice law or be an accountant, but they have no idea how operations work
Right.
or risk management or some other aspect of the business. And then scale of economies. So there's benefits to economies of scale, and so those are the four things that they're looking for. That the types of businesses they are acquiring have those elements. Active 2026 categories include IT services, managed service providers, accounting, obviously, home services, dental, and vet practices.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those go
No.
ahead.
Yeah. Those. I mean, I look over this a lot. So those businesses there have one thing in common.
Mm.
One thing in common. Um, and it's that they're going to be needed.
Oh yeah, the
You are
recurring
always
revenue.
going to need a dentist. You're always going to need accounting. You're always going to need some. AI cannot take over IT services. AI cannot hardware
Listen,
unless we're getting robots.
yeah,
I mean, from a hardware standpoint,
yeah.
AI
For a
cannot go
while,
in and plug in and fix a server from a hardware standpoint until we are pretty much all on the cloud. But there's still an aspect of people that's needed in a lot of these businesses as of right now. So they're still very valuable, right? And they're still very valuable to the outside world, right? You're like I said, you're always going to need a dentist, home services, right? You're going to need your HVAC unit replaced. And that's going to have to be repaired by an HVAC technician. So I think they're seeing the value of like, hey, these businesses have been around for years. There's no growth, but they have a strong customer base, and they're still going to be needed. This is a gold mine investment right now.
yeah, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about professional management upside and what that
Yeah.
really means. So, Parker, imagine for a moment we're looking at a plumbing business. This is an established, profitable plumbing business.
Right.
It's been around, say, 20 years. They're doing around $20 million in revenue annually. They got lots of trucks, lots of technicians, but the owner, they're handling every kind of major purchase. They manage all the customer relationships. A lot of people keep coming back because they know the owner. They're making all the hiring decisions. They don't really have a CFO. They don't have KPIs, key performance indicators that they're bound to. They don't have a documented sales process. A private equity firm or any buyer is going to look at that and go, "Wow, they're doing a great job, and they don't even have the infrastructure that's going to allow them to be more capable."
Hmm.
And so we'll come in, we'll buy that business. This sounds like a great investment, recurring revenue, and we'll put in a professional CEO. We'll bring in a CFO with financial discipline. We'll bring in some better technology. We'll create standard operating procedures. We'll have a documented sales process with sales dashboards. We'll create incentives for the technicians to make more sales, to hit certain metrics. We'll do all these things that make the business run better, and then it'll be far more valuable. We really won't have to change anything. We're just basically we don't even have to buy any new or get any new customers. We just have to pretty much do what we're doing already, but we just install these things that make the business run better, more efficiently, and we'll make more money that way. So that's what I say when I get to professional management upside is the business just by installing better leadership, better systems, it'll grow.
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, I think from that angle, right? If there's so many companies that are naturally doing well that you know don't have a system that a teenager could figure out, right? Like one of the smallest low hanging fruits that not even low hanging fruit, but one of the smallest things is your website, right? You don't Your website genuinely looks old because a lot of your clientele have been word of mouth or repeat clients, so you haven't had to take leads through your website. A quick change like that, you can now capture leads. You could install AI bot, right? This is just very, 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 low here, but an AI bot that now qualifies, answers the call, or just routes the leads to your email, books them on your calendar for you, or just a simple lead form that books the call automatically. So now that's something you don't have to do. So you can route them to that.
Yeah.
Um, I think is important. The other distinction that you mentioned that I wanted to chat about real quick is the scenario here, right, of a company doing that much money, but a lot of it is running through the owner.
Yeah.
And I would push back a little to say part of that could be a red flag of an investment unless they have the capital to absorb, a potential loss there. Because here's the thing, if it hypothetically, right?
Yeah.
If a lot of that is running through the owner,
Right.
right? The biggest question would be are the company's major accounts running through the owner, right? When you look at the $20 million revenue, it is 60% of that run through two customers because he landed two over the last 20
Yeah.
years that he
He's got a
knows
big
well.
he's got a
He has to
big deal with the
be
city, and the city needs
right,
a bunch of work, and then
right, and
his
they need to work.
buddy works at the city.
Bingo. Right. And then if they see that, they're like, well, you're doing 20 million, but if you were to, God forbid, not be here tomorrow, that account is gone. They don't
Yeah.
know us. They
Right.
don't trust us, right? They might go with your referral that you know. So some of these firms will see that as a risk unless they can absorb it, or they're just going to buy the company at a much, much lower multiple there because of the risk of the owner. And
Yes.
that is one of the most important moats here is how you structure your company, right? So if you are a business and a lot of your revenue is run through the owner, you may think you may never be in this position, but you might want to sell one day, and that is going to have to change. You're going to have to shift that to not have a lot of your business run through your owner. I know it can be easy to do that, but we're seeing time and time again these companies are thinking, well, I looked online and it could sell for 6 plus, 7 plus, and you're like, well, if you were to no longer be here, this would be worth your revenue would drop to 5 million. So we need to price it at that. And they're like, well, you're lowballing me, but you're just not understanding how it works. So you have to
Yeah.
structure a lot of your accounts to be, of course, they can come through the owner, but how's your sales process? What's the system there so that you're it's a healthy spread across the company and not just through one person.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I'm thinking of a company that engaged us, and they had a huge risk. This was such an obvious risk, and it was they had a star rainmaker on their team who was selling these massive deals, and the issue was they didn't know what he was doing. They just knew he was doing it, and and so that was a big
Oh yeah,
big red flag there. And yeah, in a sale, if there's a lot of owner dependence, you are going to get a lower offer because there's important infrastructure that needs to be created so that it can run without the owner. And
definitely.
so a sophisticated buyer is going to look for that. And you need to understand as a seller what is attractive to a sophisticated buyer who's actually going to pay you the money that you want, and how to make your business more valuable. So if you do want to exit, or even if you don't want to exit, how is your business more sustainable, healthier, all that sort of a thing. You need to think through that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's again, it goes back to what we spoke about in the previous topics. Is preparation is so important.
Yeah.
Someone said, you don't rise to the level of your goals; you fall to the level of your systems,
Mm,
and truly, you fall to the level of your preparation. Right? That's how we're able to. If you prepare right, you're gonna fall at that level. You're
mm-hmm.
gonna fall if you do the right things, the things you're supposed to do. You're gonna naturally fall there. It won't stop you. But if you don't prepare, well, you're gonna fall to the level that you're at right now.
Yeah.
So if you don't understand these things, if you're like, yeah, we're making so much money, we're doing great, but it's all running through you.
Yeah.
I
It's a big
mean,
risk.
it's a big risk, right? Like it's a huge risk because, and it's not personal. It's not against you. It's just, hey, like if I mean you can break that down in any way, right? If you were to sell something small or let's say some candy, to some kids, but you are the candy maker and the person wants to buy that candy business and but you can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to make the same candy, right? I know that was a crazy analogy,
Yeah.
but you're just naturally not going to see that as valuable, right? So I
Right.
think
Yeah.
if you
You don't have any of the recipes written down. You.
right, you know what I mean? So if
Yeah.
we
It's
break
well.
this
It's just
down
I know
more.
how to do it. So
Of
I do
course,
it.
exactly. So if we are able to, if I know there's a lot of jargon here, and we're talking private equity and EBITDA and profit and all these things that can be jarring at times, but break it, make it practical, break it
Hmm.
down, right? use children as analogies, right? Use smaller companies, right? Eliminate stand so then you can understand how this will work. Put yourself in that position. You know, if I were to buy something small and it was the same scenario that I was in, would I buy that thing? It doesn't change. It
Yeah.
doesn't change just because it got bigger.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the greatest, that's a great point to leave on is that if you walk away from your business dies, you
Yeah,
don't have an asset, you have a job, you're
yeah,
building a career.
for
Um,
sure.
the thing that's very valuable is the thing that survives you. Yeah, and then we got a comment as from Sam. It says, "Aim higher to hit higher targets." Exactly. You got to solve bigger problems. You got to think bigger.
Right.
You got to go. If you want to get bigger, you want to grow. You need to think differently. So,
Yeah,
and that's what this show's all about is helping people get a bigger vision, see that there's more options out there, and to help people think differently.
for sure.
All right, so Parker, I'm at my favorite part of the show where we pull that lever. So let's talk about. There's three major things. Everything comes back to three big things you need to steward well. It's time, money, or people. When people come talk to chief go officers, that's usually it boils down to one of those three: time, money, or people. You're losing lots of time. Maybe you're losing your people. Maybe you're losing money. Maybe you're losing all three. So, what do you think is, you know, the big issues here? All these stories are somewhat related. Time, money, or people. What are your thoughts around this?
Um, so I'll list my number one. I do think each lever has its own area, you know, that you
Mm-hmm.
can make a case for time, money,
Yeah.
and people. I think again, money is always the easiest answer, you know, because everything is about money. Um, but I will go with people here.
Okay. I want to hear.
And reason being is because you are acquiring companies, which means, like we mentioned before, you're acquiring more bandwidth, you're acquiring
Right.
more people, right,
Correct.
under your bandwidth. If if you didn't, for example, the law firm Orion Law, right, they just acquired more lawyers, which means you acquired more people to handle more cases, or like we mentioned before, to handle bigger cases. Aim higher, aim for higher targets. That
Yep.
same accounting memo we had as well. Instead of just doing taxes, now we can become a consulting advisory firm that can consult with PayPal, that can consult with Snapchat, that can consult with Lowe's HQ. Right now, I'm just naming businesses, right? Harris Teeter HQ, whoever who might need that level of service. And I
Yeah.
think you'll need the people to handle the large, long engagements that are like that. So for this specific one, you can make a case for each angle, but I'm gonna go with people on this one.
Yeah. You know what? We're talking about service businesses and any professional service, it's going to be a people issue. At the end of the day, you have to be able to attract really good people into your business, retain them for a long period of time in order for you to grow.
Yeah,
Now, you can grow faster if you have a unified platform, really solid leadership, systems and processes in place that help things run more smoothly. If you're out there acquiring businesses and bolting them on to become more capable, obviously that's going to save you some time,
mm-hmm.
and allow you to become more valuable a lot quicker than if you were growing naturally.
Yeah,
However, at the end of the day, it is, I think, a people issue, especially for professional services, but any service really, um, because your people are your product.
yeah.
You need people to provide the service, and so I think you chose well, and I would agree with you that it's a people issue.
Yeah,
So
sure.
you need to be able to steward people well and think through how to partner with them. It's also, I would say, a people issue from the standpoint of these companies. at the end of the day, you gotta, as the owner, as the business owner, you have to kind of put your ego aside or your plans aside and go like, hey, I didn't maybe necessarily choose that private equity is coming into my, into the law firm space, or I didn't choose that they were going to buy accounting firms, but I own an accounting firm, and this is the situation I find myself in, and having that humility to say like, this is a problem I didn't choose, but it chose me,
Yeah.
and I need to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to engage some outside help. I'm going to get up to speed on this subject that I really don't have any interest in, but
Yeah.
it matters to my survival.
Yeah.
And so I either need to think about how maybe I could structure a deal, how I should structure a deal, or how do I build a moat that
Yeah.
other people can't copy or acquire, take your business, kill your business.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's a big part of what we're doing here is helping people think through how to build that moat.
Yeah, and one more thing to mention
Mm,
before we move off here is, so fun fact, I used to not in the not on the PE side of things, but I actually used to
mm,
work for a private equity company in high school.
mm.
Yeah, it was called the Carlyle Group out of DC and uh, uh, not Reston, Virginia, the Arlington, Virginia.
Okay.
And the cool part about it is I didn't know this, and this is when I first understood, but like they actually, I believe, facilitated the Beats by Dre deal with Apple, or they were a
Mm,
part of that.
yeah.
I
Mm,
don't know if a lot of people know that. And so you have Beats by Dr. Dre, right,
right.
who made this product, and for whatever reason, he probably, they approached him early, and they got a deal done, and now that's why Apple owns Beats.
Mm,
So, um, essentially, maybe he realized it's entering his industry. He was not going to be able to scale where they could take it, and now because of the structure, I mean, he's now going to profit for the rest of his life, right? So Apple took Beats to where he probably couldn't take it, and he's still able to enjoy the fruits of his labor that was facilitated via private equity.
yeah,
So
that's that's
if
that's a
that
great
hard
point.
he had to do it, then that's definitely something to look into if it's entering your area as well, so you can take advantage of the opportunity there.
That's a great point, but it all depends on the terms of the agreement. And so
Yeah,
you got to have good people on your team that are helping you see angles that you might not necessarily see,
definitely,
and preparation obviously so that you can make a deal happen, that
for
people
sure,
want to pay you what your business is worth,
100%.
that sort of a thing. So
Yeah,
with that, we're gonna sign off. If today's conversation helped you see your business differently, share this with another business owner. We'd love to have them here as well. That a lot of you are not subscribed, and so go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button, comment, or leave us something in the chat that says made it to the end. If you're wrestling with an important decision, we'd love to have a conversation with you. Our link is in the chat. I'll also leave it in the show notes, or you can visit chiefgoofficers.com. Uh, we help business owners, acquirers, and leadership teams identify the few constraints that matter most so that you can build a healthier and more valuable business. So go ahead and bring your questions. I'll bring an outside perspective. Until next time, keep building that moat.
definitely.